How's it going, everyone? Shaman talent trees are now available on Dragonflight Alpha as well as Wowhead. So if you want to get out and start testing it, get onto Wowhead, pull up the tree, start making your builds, and start giving feedback. Right now is the time for feedback. This is the most important time in terms of the design of the tree, the location of nodes, etc. This is when you want that feedback getting in, is during this alpha period. Beta is when things start to become more locked in, and you'll still see some changes, but they're going to be, smaller changes that are made. That being said, I want to go over some of the key things that are available on the core side of the shaman tree now that we have a full layout. And then I want to talk about all of the enhancement side. And enhancement, for those who know, that is the only spec of shaman that I do play. So if you're hoping for me to talk about Ellie or Resto, this is not the place for it. I only cover enhancement shaman because it is the only spec of shaman that I play, and the only class really that I play in World of Warcraft. So let's get into it very quickly. Again, we're just going to cover some of the key things about the core side of the tree for shaman. I'll talk about why only some of the key things and not like everything about it. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of the enhanced side. I'm going to try to keep things quick and concise while still providing my initial thoughts around seeing each of these things right now. But first, the reason why we're not going to get too into it is that a lot of the options on the core side of the tree are taking core abilities that we had previously. So things like Frost Shock, things like our Astral Shift. This is a core, this is our core defensive. We have to take it. Wind Shear, Capacitor Totem, Tremor Totem, things like that. But there are some other things on here that are now available to enhancement that are going to be really impactful depending on what form of content you're looking to engage in. All right. Now, some of these totem options you don't have to take, right? But some of them you will in order to go down other various paths that are, available to you. So, first thing to talk about with the enhancement side of it is that we do have Flurry back. Flurry is a talent that is back for us over here. So this is going to be a really nice talent for getting more attack speed out very consistently for the class, which is, more attack speed means more attacks, which means more chances to proc. More procs means more damage, right? All that good stuff. So just more. It's just more. It's just a good talent to have available to us. Right here is one of the bigger choices. This one's going to be more of a PvP talent choice that you go with, and that is choosing between Normal Purge or Greater Purge. Normal Purge is going to have no cooldown. It's going to be 10% of your mana, and it's going to generate a stack of Maelstrom weapon when you successfully purge a target. Or you can take Greater Purge, and it'll have a 15-second cooldown and purge 2 magical effects right away, but it will not generate Maelstrom, and it's going to be on that 15-second cooldown, and it's going to be 20% of your base mana. So less GCD for more magical effects removed in one, button press, but ultimately, same amount of mana, less Maelstrom being generated, but it's, 15-second cooldown. We'll yet to be seen how impactful that'll actually be when, at least as enhancement, choosing between the two, since you also lose out on that Maelstrom weapon stack generation. One of the other really big ones here is, we finally saw in those data mine notes the return of Gust of Wind, but we have to choose between Spirit Walk or Gust of Wind. So in PvE, Gust of Wind is going to probably be a clear-cut choice, as it's going to allow you to have movement every 20 seconds. Spirit Walk still being that 1-minute cooldown. But in PvP, Spirit Walk is going to have that root removal on it. But you would have the option up here to take Thunderous Pause, which when you go into Ghost Wolf, it removes snaring effects and increases your move speed by 25% for the first 3 seconds. Happens every 60 seconds. So you can either look to go spec into 2 root removals as Enhancement Shaman in PvP, or you can, look to take 1 and get that Gust of Wind for more consistent and reliable movement. I would prefer having Gust of Wind baseline or as a free option. They put Feral Lunge over here in the enhancement side. I would love if Gust of Wind and Feral Lunge traded places, but that's just me being selfish for it. in the class design, because Feral Lunge just don't really particularly like it, with it requiring a target and it not really doing damage either for what it is. So it's just a targeted movement that's not very great. So you have to do that with choosing between Gust of Wind or Spirit Walk. So that's one of the key choices that you have to make with that side of it. We do gain access to Earth Grab Totem or Windrush Totem. This is going to be a nice PvP optional totem that we have available as enhancement. One of the big things that's coming out of this core tree is more CC available to enhance. That is the one thing that enhancement has lacked, has been reliable forms of CC all this time. You do have the capacitor totem, but people always just kill the capacitor totem a lot of the time. People have targeting macros for it, but now we're also going to have Earth Grab Totem as a potential option here, as well as having Windrush Totem there for the PvE option, or you can go Earth Grab for Mythic Plus. So nice choosing for different situations here. This is where having those multitude of builds available with the templates and being able to switch between them is going to be really nice, and you're not going to have to respec constantly for PvE or single target or raid, Mythic Plus, etc. So those are those are some really nice early options that we have available. Later on, we get access to Mana Spring Totem down here. This is probably going to be a required talent for most competitive environments in PvP and PvE, given that you see a lot of things right now in the AWC. A lot of matches come down to the healers running out of mana. You have the ability for your DPS to generate more mana for you as well. That's going to help your healers be able to sustain more frequently, but also in raiding, having your DPS being able to generate mana, since it is whenever we cast Storm Strike as Enhancement Shaman, this Mana Spring Totem is going to be really nice utility that is going to be seen as a must-have in a lot of situations, because you're going to be able to generate more mana for your healers. But you are enhancement, and so your group may fortunately also think that you're better off in a full melee group with Wind Fury Totem. We'll see. But for Ellie, I can definitely see Ellie ending up there as well with it. This one as well, Ancestral Guidance is available for the next 10 seconds. 25% of your damage and healing is converted to healing up to 3 nearby injured party or raid members. Just more utility as a DPS and healer, being able to provide more for your party and raid in all situations. It's just a nice 2-minute cooldown to have if you go this route over here. The biggest ones that I think are available on this tree as enhancement is the access to Thunderstorm. So now you're going to be able to use Thunderstorm and knock people away. All right, you're going to deal nature damage to all enemies within 10 yards, reduce their movement speed, and knock them back. You are able to then talent down here. This is a choice option, and I think this is beautiful for enhancement. We finally, if you want to, take access to Lightning Lasso, which is going to be a reliable, single target stun, which is great in a lot of ways, and it's ranged. So having that in our kit is going to be very nice for setup and chase. Purely talking about it from a PvP standpoint, you can take an additional talent called Thundershock instead, which would then make Thunderstorm knock targets up and reduce the cooldown of Thunderstorm. We have Tranquil Air, and choose between Tranquil Air and Stoneskin Totem. This is Stoneskin Totem. Stoneskin Totem reduces the damage of your party and raid members by 10%, so that's another utility damage reduction. Could be very beneficial in PvP. We also get access to Poison Cleansing Totem. Just a lot of utility being brought back in as an enhancement shaman. Right here, Totemic Projection, relocate your active totems as well. So, some of these totems, this is going to be, that have longer duration activations. And when you're moving in fights, Totemic Projection will be nice for relocating those things. But, those are some of the really like key things specifically that are new in terms of access for enhancement. But the Thundercloud, Lightning Lasso, that type of stuff. I love seeing that kind of stuff for PvP as enhancement. But you know, I really like seeing Gust of Wind coming back as well. Hopefully, you know, we can get that to work out really well with Thunderous Paws over here, to, you know, have that root break and still have Gust of Wind. But you know, that's gonna bring up our initial thoughts around the core tree, the, you know, the stuff that I found to be most impactful and important, that's, you know, different or new in terms of access to us as enhancement. Now, going over here for the enhancement tree, this is where it gets good. There's a lot of good things here, and then there's also some, you know, questionable locations of some things. But first, getting into it, Storm Strike. If you play Enhancement Shaman, you know Storm Strike. Lava Lash, you know Lava Lash. Wind Fury weapon. Got a spec for that Wind Fury weapon. It seems like a lot of just like enhancement abilities are abilities in general. We literally spec for all of them here. Everything about enhancement except for Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning pretty much come from here. I guess I should mention there's a couple other like nice notes here that are like increase, you know, fire and frost damage, which will tie into enhancement, this talent right here, as well as you know, improved Lightning Bolt, increase the damage of Lightning Bolt by 10%, which will be nice for single target purposes. And then we get down here, improved Maelstrom weapon, and now is where we start getting into the choices. Okay, the first one, Raging Maelstrom. Maelstrom weapon can now stack an additional 5 times. Okay. Forceful Winds is making its return. Wind Fury can stack repeatedly, 35% increase up to 5 stacks, as long as it's within the first 15 seconds, and then it resets. Okay. Lava Lash getting talents. So Lava Lash, if you spec into it, will get its cooldown reduced by 3 seconds, and it will now spread up to 2 targets per talent point. So core cooldown reduced by 3 seconds, and the Lava Lash target that you hit, if they have Flame Shock on them, will spread Flame Shock up to 4 nearby targets. So that's going to be a nice full spread on the Flame Shock activation for the AoE side of things for enhancement. Then we have Unruly Winds here. You know, this was a potency conduit, now making its way in onto the talent tree. Wind Fury weapon has a 75% chance to trigger a 3rd attack. Feral Lunge, talked about that earlier. Feral Lunge, I don't care for it. It's whatever to me. This is the first option talent for enhancement. We've got Primal Lava Actuators and Primal Primer back. Primal Lava Actuators and Primal Primer. Primal Lava Actuators was the legendary from Legion, Shadowlands. Each time Flame Shock deals periodic damage, increase the damage of your next Lava Lash by 12% and reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash by 0.5 seconds. With that increased amount of Flame Shock target spread, this is going to ramp up very quickly, as well as, you know, reduce the cooldown very quickly for Lava Lash. So this is probably going to be the go-to in Mythic Plus for that option. But then Primal Primer here, melee attacks with Flame Tongue active, increase the damage the target takes from your next Lava Lash by 35, stacking up 10 times. This is probably going to be the go-to for single target with the way it reads. You know, you're going to build up those 10 stacks very quickly, and it's only the target that you're attacking with it. So this is going to be probably the go-to single target option with Primal Primer. So let's just take one of those. We'll take Primal Primer for now. Wind Fury Totem. We have to spec into Wind Fury Totem. You're probably going to be mandatory to take Wind Fury Totem unless your group wants you in a group with healers and casters to regen their mana with Mana Spring Totem, in which case then you might not run Wind Fury Totem, but you'd still probably want to run it for yourself, if, you know, it's still functioning as something that you self-benefit from. But, you know, this is just not as good if it's only benefiting you, but it's still something that would benefit you. Sundering right here. Same thing, it's staying flame strike damage, 40-second cooldown, incapacitation effect. Now, this is one of the more controversial talent choices that a lot of Shaman people are seeing right now, is the Overflowing Maelstrom or Focused Maelstrom. Overflowing Maelstrom can make your damage or healing spells now consume up to 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. Or you can do Focused Maelstrom. Focused Maelstrom weapon now increases the damage or healing of spell effects by 5%. I'm assuming this means an additional 5%. So currently, You know, that would be 25% total increased damage, but all of your stuff would only consume 5 stacks. Or you could have it consume up to 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks at 20% per stack, assuming that this is the way it actually works out from how it reads. We do have now Fire Nova and Hailstorm here. It's looking a lot like the right side of the tree is AoE oriented, with the middle being a little bit of either or, and the left side being a little more single target focused. Doom Winds is back, but it's nerfed. Doom Winds is back, but it's nerfed. It's still a 1 minute cooldown, but it increases your chance to activate Wind Fury weapon to 75%. So it's no longer 100%. So that I don't think is very good. I think Doom Winds needs to be 100% activation. Otherwise, you can just get jackknifed on RNG with Wind Fury not going. 75% isn't 100%. You can still get that bad RNG and have lots of attacks not activate Wind Fury, which would feel really bad. Now, is that likely? No, it's 75%. It's a very high percent chance, but it's not 100% chance. And that was what made Doom Winds good and viable during Shadowlands, was it having that 100% activation for it. So that's the choice there with that one. Here we have Fire Nova and Hailstorm. This is looking like AoE side of the tree. Fire Nova, now a eruptive burst of fire. All targets, up to 6 targets within 8 yards of your flame shock targets. So it's going to AoE all the targets within range that are affected by flame shock. So with the way the Lava Lash will now work, you can very easily get 5 targets to all get afflicted with Fire Nova very easily here. Hailstorm, each stack of Maelstrom weapon, another returning talent, increase the damage of your next Frost Shock by 15% and causes your next Frost Shock hit to hit 1 additional target per Maelstrom weapon consumed, up to 5. So these two are returning talents, but you are able to get an additional Fire, Frost, and Nature damage right here by 10% with elemental weapons. Storm Flurry, standard talent coming back that we all know. You do have to spec into Crash Lightning if you want it. It's right here in the middle of the tree. It's going to be a staple take because it's just core to a lot of things, even in single target. These options, this is one of our other optional ones for utility. Cleanse Spirit, Wind Shear, Purge, Totem, Cast, no longer cancel Ghost Wolf. So these are all things that you'd be able to use while moving around in Ghost Wolf. Can be good going from pack to pack or when moving around and LOSing. Being able to use some of these utility features while being in Ghost Wolf can be good. But the other option is your Healing Surge is 30% more effective on yourself. That's going to be way too good in PvP, I feel like, for you to not take for yourself in terms of self-healing. But yet to be seen. I have a feeling that in typical Enhancement Shaman fashion with hybrid healing, it'll be really strong in the first patch and then nerfed into oblivion come the second patch, as has been the case with every expansion so far since it's been a thing. Ice Strike. Ice Strike is becoming an interesting ability on this side of the tree. Strike your target with an icy blade, dealing 115% attack power, frost damage, and snaring them by 50%. Ice Strike increases the damage of your next Frost Shock by 100%. And so that would stack with Hailstorm's damage increase. So you could get really juicy AoE ice builds coming out here with this Ice Strike being incorporated. As well as the additional talent here now, new talent, Swirling Maelstrom, Ice Strike and Fire Nova now also grant you 2 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. All right, so we're getting a lot more ways of generating Maelstrom, more consistent, reliable, guaranteed ways of generating Maelstrom. This is really important as we get further down this tree. All right, Stormbringer, your special attacks have a 5% chance to reset the cooldown on Storm Strike. Great. Elemental Blast is Elemental Blast. It's not changed. Improved Stormbringer. This one is so important. Finally, after all this time, Stormbringer now causes your next Storm Strike to deal 25% of the additional damage as nature damage, we're finally getting a nature damage aspect back onto Stormbringer with our Storm Strike, and so that will also scale with our mastery. So that is really nice to see, and that will be a portion of damage that is not mitigated by armor finally, when we're talking about it from a PvP perspective. All right, so that's really awesome to see back. Gathering Storms. Each target hit by Crash Lightning increases the damage of your next Storm Strike by 2.5%. You can take this twice to make it 5% increased damage for each target hit. So that's a returning effect of Crash Lightning tacked on here as a talent. Chain Lightning. Each target hit by your Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of Crash Lightning by 1 second. This is another returning effect from Shadowlands. Hot Hand returning talent. Not sure how much Hot Hand will be used or seen with all the other ways. I feel like part of it being the reduced cooldown on Lava Lash, that effect of it is just not really that viable, with them already reducing the cooldown of Lava Lash baseline, as well as haste will reduce the cooldown, most likely. Yet to be seen if haste is affecting these cooldowns. But also Flame Shock, if you take that option, maybe for Primal Primer builds, but Primal Primer is only good as you stack it up, so having really short cooldowns on Lava Lash can negatively affect Primal Primer as well. But in an AoE environment with Primal Lava Actuators, your cooldown on Lava Lash is already going to be insanely short with all those ticks of Flame Shock in an AoE environment, lowering that cooldown as it is. So Hot Hand, you'd really be, taking for that 100% damage increase on it, but that 5% chance is still a really low proc chance on this one. But Hot Hand is back in that regard. All right, now we're gonna go from left to right here through our main big talent end of tree choices. We got Primordial Wave here is the returning Covenant skill, but you're able to modify it to have Primal Maelstrom to generate stacks of Maelstrom weapon here. And we're gonna have to unspec some things so that we can go down the tree here. You can generate 10 stacks of Maelstrom with it right away when using it, as well as lightning bolts generated by your Primordial Wave increase your haste by 6% for 12 seconds. So having Primordial Wave instantaneously generate Maelstrom weapon is really nice as well for immediately casting additional spells or healing following it. Elemental Assault, Storm Strike damage is increased by 8% or 15% once you put 2 points into it. And Storm Strike will now also generate 1 stack of Maelstrom. Feral Spirits is its own ability here, and Feral Spirits will still generate 1 stack of Maelstrom weapon immediately on use and 1 stack every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. It is a 2-minute cooldown, but returning with it is Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones, which you can put 2 points into it, which is increase the chance to gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon by 4%. And whenever you gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon, the cooldown of Feral Spirits is reduced by 2 seconds. This is important to go back and note to these other effects that we are getting that are going to instantaneously generate stacks of Maelstrom weapon here. Okay, so having a lot of these different methods to generate, stacks of Maelstrom are huge gainers in terms of lowering the cooldown of Feral Spirits, which also are generating Maelstrom weapon stacks. Now, unfortunately, and fortunately, we get a returning of one of the greatest talents to have existed for Feral Spirits, and that is Alpha Wolf. Alpha Wolf is back, where you can take for Feral Spirits are active. Crash Lightning causes your wolves to attack all nearby enemies for the next 8 seconds. So that's really nice. That's a great AoE talent to return for our Spirit Wolves. Unfortunately, you have to choose between Alpha Wolf or Feral Spirits. Feral Spirits being, or Elemental Spirits. Elemental Spirits being that talent that gave us fire, lightning, storm wolves, etc. Unfortunately, I think in terms of single target, you'll see Elemental Spirits get used, but that will be the only situation in which I think they will be seen, is like raid boss fights. But anything that might have cleave at any cleave, I think you see Alpha Wolves just because of that RNG element of elemental spirits, of you don't know what kind of wolves you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get fire wolves. You don't know if you're going to get storm wolves. You don't know if you're going to get ice wolves. So it's very difficult to determine how it's going to affect your DPS output when you have elemental spirits. But I think elemental spirits in a pure single target environment, elemental spirits will be the go-to because you're not going to benefit the AoE effect of Alpha Wolves. But if there is any cleave element, I feel Alpha Wolf is going to be the hard go-to no matter what there. Legacy of the Frostwolf. Frost Witch is back also as a talent that you can stack 2 times. Consuming 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon will reset the cooldown of Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to deal 30% increased damage. So nice modifier there again for Storm Strike to get more damage out of it. Legendary returning from Shadowlands. Ascendance. Transform into an Air Ascendant for 15 seconds, immediately dealing attack power, nature damage to any enemy within 8 yards, reducing the cooldown and cost of Storm Strike by 66%, and transforming your auto attacks and Storm Strike into wind attacks. Now, Ascendance gets probably some of the most juiced talent choices to invest into it. Static accumulation. While Ascendance is active, generate 1 Maelstrom Weapon every 1 second, or generate 2 Maelstrom Weapon every 1 second. But immediately following that, Thorim's Invocation. While Ascendance is active, Wind Strike automatically will consume up to 5 Maelstrom Weapon to discharge a lightning bolt at your enemy. So if you have 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon and you Wind Strike a target, you are simultaneously going to lightning bolt them. So it's like you're spending a 5-stack Maelstrom Weapon attack off the GCD while also using Wind Strike. So that is really big burst window potential becoming available here for Enhancement Shaman during that Ascendance window. And so that's going to be a really big juice spender window for us. It's going to make Ascendance feel like a really impactful cooldown to be using. That's why it's on that 3-minute cooldown. All right. But it's going to be a very strong cooldown to use. But again, more Maelstrom generation. And so depending how you build your tree, and what talents you take and where you take them, right? You could quite literally end up with taking, maybe you don't want Sundering if it means you also get access to other options further down. With Spirit Wolves and Ascendants, you could take Spirit Wolves and Ascendants, right? And Alpha Wolf and the Invocation and Thorms and the Legacy right there. So, you can get access to both of these if you really want. Or maybe, you don't want to take, all the way over here with Primordial Wave and you want to just be purely invested here. I don't see an environment in which we aren't taking Feral Spirits or Ascendants. I would hate to not take Primordial Wave, but I think if I had to sacrifice one of these bottom row talents, it would be Primordial Wave. Just as it currently stands. And if I had to choose, I would probably give up this tree, this option down here in a single target environment, even then, if it meant we got Thorm's Invocation. So like if it came down to your tree being like this with what you were doing, Primal Primer, Wind Fury Totem, if you're taking it, right? Hot Hand, unfortunately, is there. I have to mess around with the tree still and figure out what I would want to run personally with a lot of things. Because if you don't go into Doom Winds and Wind Fury, maybe you don't go Forceful Winds and that opens up another talent somewhere and you just have Wind Fury Weapon as supplemental. But if I had to choose between Thorm's Invocation or one of the Wolf talents down here, I'm taking Thorm's because that's going to be some big damage output increase that's happening. That being said, wolves are up far more often, so I think in PvP this would obviously be a go-to choice. PvE, we'll sim it. But as you can see, there's a lot of options, a lot of things going on here, a lot of exciting things happening with it. Some talent positions, it feels like Ascendance might be better off over here on the left side of the tree, since it has more things to do with Storm Strike and Maelstrom Weapon. And it's more single target based, and Primordial, you know, the right side of the tree seems to be more AoE centric, and that would kind of make more sense for Primordial Wave, since Primordial Wave hits all your targets that are afflicted by Flame Shock when you cast it. So that would kind of tie in with the synergy of what's going on over here. So, you know, I feel like Ascendance and Primordial Wave could probably switch places. But, you know, so, you know, give your feedback, mess around with the tree yourself, see what you like, see what kind of build you can come up with, PvE, PvP. Fortunately, we're going to have a bunch of templates available for us. Hi, buddy. I got my dog right here. He's been keeping me company through all this because he knows I'm excited, so he wants to know what's going on, because I'm excited, guys. I'm so excited. One, I'm excited to have talent trees back. Two, I'm excited for Enhancement Shaman to have all these options available to them once more through the core side and over here on our main tree. So I'm just absolutely ecstatic at the moment with what's going to be happening. You know, few changes here and there from what I can see that would be, you know, really nice to clean it up. But in general, I'm excited for what's going to be coming for Enhancement Shamans. But, you know, guys, that's gonna bring it up here. Hopefully we can get some alpha footage of the trees in action for you all soon. But in the meantime, feel free to leave a comment about which talents you're most excited about, what changes you would like to see to our tree, any feedback you might have as well. And we'll catch you in the next one. And if you want to catch any of this live, we'll be on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sav. Have a good one and take care.